Hey everyone, and thank you so much for joining. Today you have Bohdan and Yuri, who's going to tell you a lot about how to think about your software stack in 2025. So why are we having this conversation today? In the past couple of months, I've been reviewing my personal sales stack and the API stack for AiSDR. And I must say, I found quite a few duplicative softwares and quite a few places where you can actually meaningfully cut costs. Spendbase helped me with some of it. So we decided to kind of team up on this event to share some insights and thoughts how you could think about optimizing your software stack and sales stack more specifically in 2025, especially at times where AI is everywhere, pushing us to like optimize and kind of focus on more things and do more with less and enabling us to do that. And B, budgets are tighter because everybody wants to find more money to invest where? AI, obviously, right? So let's talk about how we can find those additional resources by being smart about how we choose vendors, how we procure vendors, and how we optimize our subscription stack. So Yuriy Zaremba, CEO and co-founder of AiSDR, and with me is Bohdan, who is leading product and sales at Spendbase, and I'm going to let him introduce himself, and then we'll share some housekeeping rules.
Yeah, thanks, Yuri, for the kind words. Very welcome, everyone. And yeah, it's Christmas time. It's budgeting season. Everybody's figuring out how to spend their hard-earned money to improve efficiency in upcoming 2025. And there's the duplicates. There's increasing costs, expansions, while everybody wants to run efficiently. And that's a bit what we do at Spendbase to facilitate companies in improving their sales stack and the software stack in general, to focus on what's important and not managing subscriptions, basically. Yeah, and that's the topic of the discussion, and hope we'll give you some good nuggets there.
Yeah, totally, right? Because I know for sure that Spendbase did help us save quite a meaningful amount of money on some of our subscriptions. So, housekeeping rules. We're gonna run our usual kind of live stream show where you ask questions, you tell us what you're most interested in, and we will answer those questions to the best of our ability. Maybe Bohdan and I will actually have different opinions on the same matters, which makes the discussion even more interesting, right? And we will do this for around an hour. I actually have an investor call in 55 minutes, so we're gonna have like a really hard stop. So shoot away your questions. Make sure we answer them. Upvote the questions that you like so that we answer them faster. And as always, there will be a recording that you can revisit and view later on. And of course, if there are some unanswered questions, I will try my best to answer them in my follow-up posts. I'm sure Bohdan will help me as well. And we will probably also reach out over email with answers to some follow-up questions. So without further ado, let's get started with our first question. So do we have our first question? Okay, so our first question, how to best approach feature overlaps in the sales stack? Because many tools promise the same, so how can you understand what they actually do? Oh, this is a great question, a very complex one. If you don't mind, but I'm gonna give like a first try on that, right? Because I spend a lot of time in this. And then we'd love to kind of hear your opinion.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so when you think about sales stack and features, there is this kind of approach that vendors have. Some vendors have like one and all solution, and then kind of the other vendors focus on point solution. And the usual selling point around that is like, we're a point solution because we really focus deeply on this specific kind of area of the sales process, right? And therefore, you should expect better results with our product. The all-in-one solutions usually kind of say, hey, you don't need those disjointed sales stack. I even kind of saw a term used like Frankenstack, which I thought is like really fun. I think Default, which is like an inbound sales company, uses it. You don't need a Frankenstack. You can have everything on one platform perfectly integrated. So the way I think about it is you actually should try to understand which features drive the most conversion to your kind of specific product, to your specific sales process, right? So for example, website visitors, right? So you can buy website visitors from our B2B, and that will be like a standalone solution, or you can buy website visitors now from Apollo or AiSDR, right? So what you should try to understand is, if I buy website visitors from AiSDR, like what do I get other than website visitors? Like, it's a way to make them actionable. It's a way to like filter down based on ICP. Do I have alternative ways to do it with my current stack, right? So for example, before AiSDR introduced the website visitor feature, we used RB2B plus HubSpot plus AiSDR, right? Because we didn't have a better way to blend it into our existing sales process, and having high quality website visitors through RB2B connected to our existing platform HubSpot and then connected to AiSDR that automates the outreach was like the best solution for us. So the way to think about it, in my opinion, is, would a point solution fit well into my existing stack to deliver maximum value? Or if I don't have enough pieces of the puzzle to have like maximum value from this point solution, maybe I should actually explore an all-in-one solution, which instead of a point pane will deliver me the entire workflow. So that's how I think about it. But I would love to hear kind of your thoughts, probably more economical than kind of sales process focused.
I think you're actually on gold here. And the one thing we should start thinking about is, either you want to consider the purchase, or you already have some tools and you think if it's the right tool for the business, because then alternative or switching costs might be too high compared to when you consider purchasing something at the very beginning. And then you're right with the example about the website visitors. What's crucial for your business? Is it the outbound dialing? Is it the conversion? Or is it the customer support that your clients will be getting along the way? So you find it anchor, and then you probably spend majority of the resources to have this one feature be as good as possible. And if something comes along with it, great, it might cover some other needs, while you augment some specifics with very narrow but high-performing solutions that you could separate and calculate ROI on that ones as well. And that's what we usually see. Like HubSpot would be a great example, or Apollo. They all have, you can call from them theoretically. Would it be the most efficient way to do so? Probably not. Then if you look at your cold calls, how many clients, what's the acquisition split coming from the cold calls, and how much revenue you're potentially losing by not making extra 50 calls that your sales reps have capacity to do. And then that would be triggered to either go to find external solution, or to calculate the ROI that it's not significant enough, and continue with the Frankenstein that you have right now. So that's the way to go about it. Figure out the essentials, what drives the business, spend the most money on it, on the most comprehensive solution, and then tinker with some other tools for the specific reasons.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. Thank you for that perspective, Bohdan. Business always comes first. Business needs.
Legitimate business.
Of course. Okay, great. I think that was a great first question. What do we have next? So what are the current limitations of AI in sales? Please help me understand where AI shines versus where there is still room for improvement. So
I think you'll be biased, but you should start, and then I'll tell.
Yeah. I would love to hear your perspective, right? Like, I don't know if have you used AI in sales?
Well, partially. We use it, I mean, all sorts of stuff. I think the best one is the transcription of the calls that we use on analytics. So that's the part of AI that we've been exploring recently that really augmented our intelligence across the whole organization, not only the sales, but the product.
That's a great point, right? That you got me thinking. I am biased because the moment I hear AI in sales, I think AI SDR and like AI email outreach, but that is such a it's a much broader topic, right? And essentially, you're exactly right. When I think about AI in sales, one AI tool that I use every day is Phantom, right? So I use Phantom every day. I record all of my calls which automatically then gets synced to HubSpot, where AiSDR picks up the content of the call and then drafts automated follow-up nurture sequences and executes them, right? So this is like a great use case for use of AI in sales, both to capture the call, summarize the call, and then use that transcribed information to create personalized kind of nurture sequence for that prospect. Another kind of use case where AI works really well is conversational inbound lead qualification, right? So we have customers where like somebody fills in a form on the website, then AI SDR reaches out, says like, hey, do you qualify based on like 1, 2, 3, 4 criteria? Yes, no, depending on the answers, which are conversationally kind of obtained, right, by AI via email. It then goes out and kind of either invites them to book a meeting if they're qualified, or just continues to nurture them. And then on the outbound front, I think we have already kind of nailed the AI kind of prompting that delivers high quality messaging, right? We, I think, have nailed using AI to find and research the right prospects, where I think AI is not your savior, right? Is in figuring out your audience message fit, product market fit, right? This is something where it can speed up experimentation, but not figure it out for you. And I think honestly, like AI calls are still not there yet for sales purposes, but for kind of taking inbound calls for like customer support, customer service, maybe outbound calls to see if someone picks up, right? So those kind of AI multi-dialers that you briefly referenced before. I think those could be interesting applications, which I think are already there, but we're still kind of really far away from high quality kind of AI conversations over phone, or something that we're using and I'm tinkering with is AI videos and like AI video demos, right? So that instead of you and me, you can have like an AI that you can talk to and ask custom questions. What I see them lacking the most is actually the emotions, right? So when I talk faster, then slower, then like more loud, then kind of more, and this dynamic of human voice and emotion, like it's just absent in AI, and therefore the best thing you can do is just kind of use it as an advanced FAQ chatbot on the website for now. But I think this is going to evolve over time. What are your thoughts?
No, that's true. I mean, AI is all of the same if the context is the same. So it's the most important thing, it's the context. So basically AI serves people to provide the context that they do not have time to collect or do not have enough of a good memory to replicate ideally, and the AI doesn't have this limitation. And same the other way around. The most important thing that salespeople deliver during the calls is the unique context of their life experience. So you feel like you talk to the human, and then maybe some technical question or some very specific use case, the AI might respond, and you would not be expecting emotional response because you need the exact piece of information. And that's basically what's so exciting about it. You have the human job, and the AI will do the boring stuff and the recalling for you along the way. And that goes along many different verticals. So qualifying inbound, supporting the outbound with the right context, learning something from scratch, just about the lead, or even if you do the calls to qualify if it's a real human who picked up, or it's an auto dialer, or it's something else. So it just helps humans be humans, and I think that's what we appreciate the most.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think something that kind of people misinterpret a lot about AI is that they think that this is like a universal assistant where you can like ask anything and get any answer, right, to any situation or question. But actually, it's software, right, that is very good at following instructions, right? So if you want to have like a really good output, as you mentioned, you have to give it a lot of context, which means like super detailed instructions and background, etc. But you can't give it live context, or at least not for a unique like human interaction pair, right? You can kind of give it context about your life and kind of some elements of it, but it's still not going to be that good for now. I'm very kind of bullish on the overall kind of future of AI and what's going to be possible. But for now, like, let's enjoy what we have and not over promise or like over expect, I'd say.
Yeah, I think
Cool.
you just have to make people superhuman with that. You want to trust human, but you want to trust very capable humans. So, and that's the future.
What are the most common traps vendors set for users, especially with AI? Oh, this is very interesting. I know of a couple. I think you may have many more stories to share. So I will let you start on this one. What are your, I don't know, top 3 favorite traps?
Favorite traps vendors set for the users. I mean, what's frustrating is how some tools are using AI for the sake of AI without any specific use case to drive the price up. Especially, we cannot. One of the cases, I'm not going to name the company, but probably, as you know, many AI use cases are being built for the usage. So you should be mindful of the prompts, how often you utilize the AI, and sometimes they include in the subscription the AI feature that they advertise heavily, and add like $2-3 to the pricing per month. But you cannot turn off the usage, so your usage piles up. You basically, without knowing so, have like tripled your bill. And if it's an annual one, there might be some issues, and then you've been referred back to terms and conditions. But I mean, obviously you use that, you enjoy that, but you are not mindful of how the pricing is structured, and you have no forecast of the future bill that you're going to receive with all of the usage of the AI. So I think combinations of those are the most frustrating ones that really might be driving some refunds. So that's the ones people should be mindful, and the product makers should be mindful of as well. I mean, of course, they want to drive the adoption, but maybe in this way, the cost is too high.
I'm curious, in your case, right? In the case you just described, was there a markup on usage, or was it just like plain like passing down the cost from the API, like AI API providers?
That's excellent question. I don't even think there was, to be fair
no
to
markup.
That. So that was even without the markup, but the whole positioning itself was broken. So I mean, with markup, it would be even worse. Maybe I think they removed it after some time. So they tried to solve it by removing the markup, but it still didn't work because the AI was not the core of the platform. It was an addition that ended up costing 3 times more than the core product.
Very interesting. I know of this model, right? Because I'm a heavy user of Wordware, which is basically like a platform to kind of prompt different things, and you pay for usage. But they have this like really useful feature, in my view, where you can set a cap, right? So basically, you set a cap, you know exactly like what is the maximum amount you can pay for the models, and then when you reach a cap, you get notification, and then if you want to like increase your cap, right, for model usage for kind of next month. So this is a very interesting thing. I never even thought about it, but that's definitely should be considered a common trap. Some of the more contractual ones, like I came across often, is having provisions like refunds in I had a situation with a data vendor, where we paid kind of in advance, and then kind of the contract was terminated. I asked for a refund, and then I got a response like, your refund will be processed in accordance with our refunds policy, which seems like a very nice legit response. And then you look up the refund policy, and it says no refunds, right? So when somebody says you that something is in accordance with the policy, like make sure to read that policy to understand what you're actually getting into. Another thing, and this has been kind of the case, is basically I always look at provisions like about what happens after the termination of the contract, because like some vendors have like your data stays like forever in their system, you can't export it. Some vendors may have like very complex like break clauses. Some vendors say that you cannot use their data after the contract is terminated, they can sue you afterwards. So there can be like a lot of tricky stuff in that place. And also, it's not a trap per se, right? But when I'm being completely honest, I'm always very kind of upset when vendors are very kind of strict regarding their kind of termination and non-renewal rules, right? So usually we have this like 90 days in advance. Usually nobody ever tells you that the renewal is upcoming. Usually you then kind of remember about it on the 89th day before the termination. And then you say, oh, hey guys, I'm 1 day late. Like I want to terminate. And then no, thanks. Like not possible. Your contract is going to be automatically renewed, right? I never, like, I understand this from the business perspective, but from a customer perspective, like, yeah, I understand that you will get this like 1 year revenue extra, right? If they will pay your bill. But ruining the relationship with the customer in that way, like by being so forceful, I don't know if that's a good idea. In terms of AI vendors specifically, I think a big trick that I've seen is basically locking a customer into like a long-term contract, right, for an unproven solution, right? So there may be kind of some different opt-out provisions, etc., but nobody tells you that the opt-out time will mostly be spent on configuration and getting it live, and then the opt-out period expires. You actually launch it, doesn't really work, but then you're locked into a year. And I think in experimental solutions like AI, right, it's not always fair. And I think the most appropriate model would be month to month.
I can give you one real example, specifically on this one, because that's what we had. Found a solution we were looking for a transcriber for the calls.
Mm-hmm.
One less popular, but they were very excited to work with European market with us. And then I was not the one who was negotiating the deal throughout the way. And the guys came, okay, we should do this. Here's like the annual price. Like for the annual, the price is really nice, but the monthly was like 5 times higher, like exceptionally high.
Exactly.
And yeah, and I was very frustrated, exactly with the same point. Like, guys, like, what the hell? I know, like, we've tested you for 2 weeks, but I know if something breaks, what happens next? And then after some back and forth on the call, we agreed for the following. We did buy, but with the clause, if we do not like the experience, if ABC breaks, we'll have a right for a refund up to 90 days after the purchase.
Mm-hmm.
So we have 1 quarter, and they were committed to delivering us excellent experience and setting up, etc., etc. And it was recorded during the call. So they have like legal obligation to follow up on that. And both us and them got the recording for whole fairness. And I think that's one of the ways you could possibly tackle that. And that's how we did it. And it's pretty happy because the incentives are right. The salespeople got their commission for closing us as a client. And then they push enough the customer support to deliver and developers to deliver the excellent experience, not to get the refunds during the quite extended period.
Yeah, that also reminds me of the meme that we had on our kind of intro slide. That is an interesting kind of perspective, but something I always do the same things, right? So trying to kind of find a middle ground, right? So for some customers, we even kind of offered meetings booked guaranteed, right? So to reduce that amount of kind of risk they are taking onto themselves. But something that I saw and kind of realized essentially is that in the end of the day, right? Will they sue us for that? Will we sue them if they like don't pay us what we're promised? And the answer is no, right? So, and therefore it's basically like a handshake deal, like based on the trust and honesty of kind of 2 people making that deal. So you should be like mindful of that and making sure that as you negotiate the contract, you don't ruin that kind of trust and relationship too much, because in the end of the day, right, you will not actually bring any legal action. At least I wouldn't, right? I don't know.
I think that's why like smaller guys worry more about the reputation. So I mean, you cannot, we cannot probably do anything with like Microsoft, whatever we do. Like they're rock solid, but some startup that's fighting for the users, they will. And one small tip on the same negotiation, how to improve your odds of success: aim to have them at the end of the month. closer
Yeah.
you are to the end of the quarter specifically, but if it's end of the month, the probabilities of the discount or better conditions for you at that point of time, if you wire the money by the end of the month, are way higher. So that's a small trick.
Guilty of that myself, right? So if anyone wants to get a discount out of me, ping me with a commitment to close the deal by the end of this month, and you're gonna get a deal.
Yeah, that's like that's rules that even if you know about them, they still work.
Exactly, right? It's just like doing
Natural
business,
cycle.
right? Like best practices of doing business, I guess. Although I had a couple vendors where like every time at the end of the month I asked like, do you have any discounts? And I always got like, no, right? Maybe I didn't push hard enough, right? But that I'm like, why didn't I get any discount, right? But I knew the answer because I really wanted the software, right? I was like over my credit users. They knew they will get the deal with or without the discount.
Desperate.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, next question. So where do AI tools sit on the org structure in 2025? Interesting question, right? The follow-up question to that is like, which AI tools? Because that depends. If we're talking about AI in sales, what I've seen is that mostly they actually sit in marketing, right? So basically, people who are responsible for running marketing, they now start owning the AI tools, especially the AI tools that are autonomous, like AiSDR. So basically, you are running marketing, you're running email campaigns, you're running ad campaigns, you're running something else, and you're running AiSDR because it's also fully autonomous. And then when somebody responds, books meeting, it gets routed to your sales rep basically as an inbound lead kind of hand raiser. But when it comes to like other products, right? So in sales, for example, email copilot, email writing copilots, research like prospect research tools, I've seen them usually be focused on somebody in RevOps or somebody in kind of SDR management space. And then obviously kind of customer support, and they all have their own kind of specific areas of responsibility. But one last interesting point, just earlier today, I was having a call with a customer who was like selling an AI product. And what their positioning is that you should be targeting both people in kind of IT, right? People who are responsible for our specific vertical. And if there is anyone with the title AI in the company, you should target them as well, right? And the thinking behind that is that people who are responsible for a specific business function, they kind of care about the business outcome and the efficiencies, so they will be interested. But then people in IT or somebody with the title AI will usually be the one who owns the AI experimental budget that many companies currently have. And therefore, like if you push that product kind of to their area of interest, right? You tell them like, hey, you can also spend this budget on this. They may then eventually bring you to the decision maker. So those are kind of like my.
Do you have many people with AI title? I think it's the bigger companies.
No, yeah, those are always big companies, right? But yeah, not many people with those titles. We actually had a customer who was looking for people with titles who have like digital transformation, and I'm like, how do you find people like that, right?
Yeah, so like bank or what?
Yeah, multi-thousand kind of people, corporations. And honestly, I think like after the COVID financial boom passed, right? Those people got different roles, I would say.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. For us, it's we have 100 people almost in the company.
Mhm.
And you're right, some owners of the departments have their impose some rules, but what we see that many people adopt tools bottom up. So somebody on an individual level uses Claude or some automation, then they show it to colleagues, it also works, and then they just submit the request to the manager, hey, we probably need this. And they've already proof of concept, and they adoption is guaranteed, which is a big problem usually if somebody is imposed. And that's what we see with the many tools, that the price might be high, but adoption is low. No matter how exceptional is the tool, it doesn't get utilized. And like even our first party data, we see that average sales rep on top of their salary and the cost for the company spent about 3.5K, like 3 to 3.5 on
Really?
sales. Yeah.
And they buy it on their own credit card?
I mean, no, it probably it's company or it's reimbursed, but that's the cost of the software per sales rep. So it's
That's pretty crazy.
quite significant if you add up everything.
Yeah. Also something to optimize. Consider AiSDR and our end of month offer. No advertising intended. Very fun. Cool. Thank you so much. This is very interesting. So, which sales tasks should definitely be automated and which one should be left to human reps? No idea. Just kidding. I have strong opinions on that.
Whichever you can. I mean, I think that's the most pragmatic and simple and obvious answer. I mean, humans are lazy. We don't want to do anything.
Right? That's exactly that's kind of my I don't know. I wouldn't say that it's my life philosophy because I do a lot of stuff, but I think that is kind of my view around how generally people approach kind of work and sales, right? So there is definitely kind of craftsmen, like artists who like take pride in like every email they write, every kind of prospect they research, like sit down, like read through everything, like research, build a story, build a case, and then bring it to life. But it feels to me, and maybe I'm totally wrong, but it feels to me that there are so few people who like think like that. And then everything else you would want to automate, right? And for me, like that's prospecting research, email creation, LinkedIn account creation, outreach across channels, eventually calls. Something that I think we will never automate in the end of the day is like demos, right? And actually kind of buying experience, unless this is self-serve, right? So coming back to what you mentioned, like bottoms up, people would want to learn more, self-onboard, explore, maybe talk to an AI avatar, like understand some specifics around their use case, and kind of that's it. But then when you are talking like 50K plus checks, you would want to jump on a call with a person, understand kind of how you feel about them. Is there trust, right? And then kind of from there, figure out whether you want to work with them or not. Because I think it kind of connects with what we discussed before, where will you sue them if they break a contract? Like, obviously not, right? So, and therefore you have to actually trust the person in front of you. And to build that trust, you have to actually talk to a person. So I think that will be like part of the human interaction for some time, right? But you are spending a lot of time in sales. Like, what have you automated, right? And what have you not automated yet?
Yeah, that's way less than we wish we would automate. But actually, just before I forget it, you mentioned about the trust and the traps, as we answered the question before. Yeah. And sometimes you can break the trusts in the business model. And one of the traps was the upfront payments for the savings. So some of our competition, they charge you like, we'll save you annually. You know, your spend is 100K. Will save you annually 20K in our estimation. Pay us 10K now, and over the year you'll get more saved. And if not, we'll give you money back. But if not, means you freeze the working capital of that 10K that you could have used for the significant amount of time. And that's one of the ways how we're quite different from the guys and trying to build the trust. We do not charge any subscription or take any upfront fee, but only the percentage of the savings that we generate for you. So basically, either we do not save you at all and you wasted like 2 hours of your life, then in the worst case, or in the best case, you save tens of thousands or even hundreds in some cases per year on your software overall. And that's also one of the things that people should facilitate, and it cannot be automated. AI, non-AI, just the way to build trust with the clients.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And what's interesting, right? Sometimes when the offer is too good, people also don't believe that. How do you overcome that? Like, when you come to people and you tell them like, hey, I'm gonna save you like $20,000, you don't have to pay anything. Like, don't like, how many people say like, I don't believe you, right? Like, this is
I
scam.
mean, you do have to pay, and we're very upfront about it. You pay 25%, in our case, 25% of the savings, so it's a quarter of that. And we're very upfront about if we cannot save you anything, we're not interested either. So we're like in the same boat.
Of course.
And
Yeah.
also, there's like, it's not immediate. It's on a rebill. So if some rebill comes up, we either give you a partner discount or we negotiate on your behalf, and you'll realize all the savings over the course of a year, probably. And it would take some time to set up. So it's not a magic trick. There's no snap of fingers, and there's plus 20K in your bank account. But it might be part-time employee that you could hire extra just by bothering enough to do an audit. The biggest problem is for people to identify the costs. So as you mentioned, you notice some stuff that you pay double for, and that's one of the things that we do. Okay, what you spending money on? People like, I don't know, some software. One team uses this, other team uses that. Never thought about it, especially until we get to the size we can afford full procurement team. Up until like early enterprise level, like 600-800 employees, I think you should not bother and just outsource it, because that's the worst part. Like accounting for the duplicates of software spending. I mean, there's like gazillion better ways to do and more productive ways to grow your business
and spend your money, for sure.
Than doing this stuff.
Next question. What do we have here? Is sales tech overpriced? How can I tell before buying and testing it? Oh, I have no idea about it. Tell me.
So the answer is yes, it is overpriced. And there's several ways to go about it. I'll tell you a few of the very actionable things and how you should think about it. One of the great ways, probably all of you know AWS, and how high the cost could go up in the cloud spend. And there are a few ways to tackle that. First, you have to understand that they're very high margin business. Their margin is exceptionally high. So if you look at the balance sheet, the P&L of the Amazon, it's public. Yes, majority of the volume is their marketplace, but majority of the margins and profits come from AWS. So keeping that in mind, there's like legitimate way to downsize or get a good discount, because they still have a lot of margin to play with. And then with that in mind, you should explore several things. First, probably with the real big vendor, it'd be hard to negotiate directly. You should go for the guys that have volume advantage and can give you a partner discount. So by aggregating many clients like we do, you can get a flat out discount. And then inside the architecture, you can do the reserved instances. You can do some other stuff. You can get for AI specifically. Many of the big corps have programs when they can give you the credits for free to increase the adoption in your company. And it's also none of your responsibility to be aware of all of the programs that are popping up in the major corporations or startups for AI. And that's kind of our responsibility to present you with the right opportunity for you. And then if you talk with the small companies, so not enterprise level, test first to reduce the price. And one of the stories from us that we did actually a few months ago, it's about the auto dialer. I'm not gonna name the companies, but you know the companies, definitely. All of the best ones in US to have especially multi-dialer, so you do not hang on the phone, but you can talk to the clients. Always mention to all of those guys that you want to test, and you've tested all the other guys. So they're pressurized to win you over, even if you might not be ideal ICP for them. Also, for each subsequent guy that you talk to, you can add a few days or a week of trial that you request. You can even mention specific names. They give us 1 week of trial. We need 2, because unfortunately, because of 1 week, we could not calculate the ROI on the tool. So we decided to explore further, and they did not want to go into the same bucket. So then they give you favorable conditions on the extended trial, and they could sometimes lower the pricing to be competitive to the market. Don't lie though. because they know the benchmarks as well.
Sure.
They're not idiots. But you would be sure to get extended trial for many of your team members, sometimes 2 to 3 times longer, and slightly below market rate conditions for the tools. And if you do not need something immediately or desperately, that would be the way to go with the smaller companies. So either take all of the discounts off the shelf, go for partner discounts like we have with the big guys like HubSpot, etc. We know the startup programs, so we can deliver that. There's no need to play. But with the growth companies, even if they raised 40 million, still you can do that. That's the way to go, and it works every time if you're respectful and if you really tested few of the alternatives. That would give you the best shot at getting a good tool. I think similar margins, correct me if I'm wrong, Kara, with the data providers.
I think so.
So they also have a lot of margin to play with, so you can pressurize it a bit.
That's true. That's true, right? And there's very often like a lot of hidden costs, right? So you can play with a lot of things, but the tactic that you mentioned, like basically mentioning that you're evaluating competitors, like in the AiSDR world specifically, like this is like magic words, right? So if you're talking to any of the kind of top players in the space, you must tell them that you're also evaluating AiSDR. The price will drop. I promise. I promise you, right? Like I've heard that from so many customers that you wouldn't imagine, right? Like they come to a call with me and they say like, oh, we're also evaluating like this, and this, and like, great, like good to hear that. And like then we discuss pricing, and I tell them our pricing. They say, yeah, that sounds great. Interestingly enough, like we've spoken to like 1, 2, and 3, they quoted us a different price, but the moment we told them that we are also having a call with you, their price dropped to the same level. I'm like, yeah, sounds good. Like I've heard that before. And then they always ask like, can you reduce your price further? And like, no, I actually don't negotiate on price, right? Unless we're running like an end of month promo or something like that.
You see, end of month works every time.
End of month works every time, right? But like, and I always appreciate honesty kind of in customers when they tell me like, hey, we want a discount, right? Like, what can you do? I probably won't give them, like, I will be honest, depending on how many customers I have for that month, right? I will be either more generous or less generous, but there's always a way to negotiate. So just ask. And the sales stack is like very often overpriced, and the margin and the amount you're overpaying depends on the brand recognition, right? The fancier the brand, the bigger the price tag.
But then also look at the price tag as a ROI. If something's super expensive, if AiSDR costs me 5K, but I earn 20, I don't care. Like literally, I don't care. And that's also what legitimate companies understand. So, and that's why we do not compete in price either. So we take percentage of success fee, basically. You cannot outcompete us in terms of the price. And that's why we get plenty of referrals as well. Just
you can compete on percentage that you take.
We had it a few times, but we were very upfront about it. Like we think it's already a stunning deal, and let us save you. And let's see. We can do some promos, but more of a, if you recommend us, we can give you we'll not bill you for some time. So it would not be reducing the percentage. And that's, I think, one of the offers that we have here. So if you've seen the codes before, we'll just give you 5K of savings for free. So we'll not charge you anything for the time being for you to get feel of it, to see that this legitimately works and you're paying less.
Yeah, that's a fair deal. So next question. I come across too many pricing models for AI software. Why is there so much difference? I have only one very simple answer, because nobody knows how to price it, and nobody can guarantee results to price and the outcomes. That's pretty much it, right? So the only thing you can price on, honestly, is kind of usage, right? And like some sort of outcomes, like intermediate outcomes. Like for us, it's like emails sent. But ultimately, what people want from us is meetings booked, right? And then like Phantom, they charge per seat, and then like Wordware, they charge for usage plus users, right? So people are trying to figure out like where to and how to price while they can't price on outcomes, which is how AI should be priced. That's how I think about it. What have you seen in the space?
I can tell you, maybe not in AI, but that's universal problem. With the AI, it's even worse. We did recently experimentation that our CMO didn't like at all. Because we have the platform, we generate the discounts for you, but then another problem is that some of the subscriptions are redundant. You've bought them, nobody's using them, and you struggle to find them. And that's what our platform does. So you connect all of your tools. We tell you that this and that guy still paying for Figma, but they're in engineers. They used to work in Figma for 2 months, and now you're paying some extra. So we find those redundancies. And some companies asked us, can we price the platform separately for them? And we did it privately. We thought it would be a good idea to do it publicly. And we changed the website. So we put the pricing, and then our conversions like dropped by 50%.
Wow.
So now you're entering the whole different realm of competition of how else I would track those things, and you enter the price war, and it's never a good place. So performance wise, so it's kind of a usage. It's kind of a usage based on the outcome.
Yeah, of course.
I wish there was some for AI, some way to have similar model, and I think it would get as the price for the prompting would be commoditized and standardized across everything. Then you could attach something else on top of it.
Yeah. I'm
commissions on deals closed, or commissions on the
exactly.
on the calls.
Commissions on deals closed, or like that would be perfect, but then you have to track it through the entire pipeline. So that's like a longer time frame, I would say, right? But then the meetings booked, or like qualified meetings booked, I think this should be possible within a year or so. Like I'm hopeful, right? I'm obviously optimistic on this.
And then calculating ROI would be a breeze, and I think
exactly
you just take off from there.
Yeah. So what do we have next? How can I negotiate subscription prices? But take it away. That's your thing.
I think we've touched on it quite a bit already. Remember, for the trials, mention the competition, mention their pricing, go for the beginning of the month, so you have the month to try it out. And then at the end of the month, you can pressure them with the price, so they have to close their rates, especially if you talk to the salespeople. And you can do some tricks in terms of the annual commitments when you have the right to cancel, conditional right to cancel, so both of you feel comfortable. And those two would work for startups to mid-sized companies. For the big ones, don't bother, I would say. Use their programs, use their partners, use the guys who have the volumes, take everything you can off the shelf, employ someone if you can, hire a procurement or purchase person, or outsource it to Spendbase or some other company to do that for you. And I think with those two, you'll be ahead of 90% of the guys out there.
Yeah, I agree. Also mention that you're evaluating competitors, right? So try to kind of use that against them. And then also try to be open about like your thinking behind this, right? So I've had a whole bunch of negotiations and pricing on both ends, right? And usually the most interesting ones and the most successful ones were like, hey, here's kind of my budget, and here's why it is like that. Because I want to get to like this outcome in this time frame. Like, what can we do here, right? And then when you give your vendor this understanding, right, and when you have this understanding, then you can have an honest conversations about like how to get there, right? So maybe they will not give you a big enough discount, but they will give you like more volume, right? Something that I recently was kind of talking about. So I was looking for big discount for data vendor, right? Obviously they said like, here is like our super mega tier that you don't need, but the price is going to be really nice there, right? And then I said like, okay, like if I go for that kind of big super mega tier, like with this discount, and like what else can we do? Like, and then we got like credit rollovers if I don't use the entire kind of super mega volume because I don't actually need it right now. And then in the end of the day, I did what you mentioned in our conversation. I said like, hey guys, this was the price you offered. I'm paying today. I have this much money. Like, are we good? Right? And that was another like 10% discount, and I paid that day. Right? So so many items in play. Just be creative, right? And understand that in that conversation, everybody wants to close the deal, right? You and them as well.
Yeah, definitely. Like with the sales, you just help to make the right decision, right? And that's an excellent point, especially if you use something already, you need an upgrade. The willingness of the companies to give you discount on upgrade is way higher than on the initial deal. So you're already paying up, but you could pay up like 40% less. And that's actually what you mentioned. And that's common practice. Ask for extra seats, extra credits, not talk about the price, but ROI would be rising for you.
Exactly. Okay, I think we have time for maybe one last question. So, is performance-based pricing the only valid approach to justify the expense and see tangible ROI? Wow, that's a difficult question. I think no, because like performance-based pricing means that you have like a measurable outcome, but for many tools out there, you can't have performance-based pricing, right? So I don't know. I previously was in legal space, right? And I was doing contract lifecycle management. Like, how do you do performance-based pricing on lifecycle management, right? So how many contracts you approved, like that that does not depend on the software entirely, right? But still the ROI was measurable because the time to approve the contract reduced dramatically, right? And you could measure that. And as a result, like more deals were closed within the same quarter versus like next quarter. And maybe the hiring strategy changed. So I think what is important here is not performance-based pricing per se, but the company and the vendor being able to tell the story and explain how their pricing connects to the ROI, and maybe kind of give you a way to verify that. But I don't know how other vendors do that outside of my own company. So maybe Bohdan, you have more insights on that.
I think that's the switch that we noticed, and that's what we obviously adopt aggressively. It should not be subscription when it doesn't have to be. So when you can directly attribute the ROI, either cut cost or generate revenue. So either one of those, by the proxy or directly. So with those cases, it makes sense for many stuff. But if it's something like Notion, I mean, you can never attribute like any performance to Notion. You can see the adoption, if people are using it, how frequently they use it, and if some net promoter score if they like using it. That's it. But there's no way they would ever use performance-based pricing. So for those close to the revenue or to the cost tools that are not administrative, it should be adopted. That's kind of our philosophy, and that helps to make the decision quicker, because then you do not have to guess and calculate it yourself. I think on the enterprise level, it's a bit different when you sell because of the person, the reputation. But at the level of, I think, our companies and those under 1,000 employees, you should go for the performance-based where you can.
Yeah, that's a great point, right? Because it's much easier to sell. I agree with you, right? Like, here's how you pay me, how much you pay me, here's how much you're going to get out of it. And the straighter that line is, like, the better. And my first company was on the cost saving end. My new company is on the revenue generating end. I must say revenue generating end sells better than cost saving.
Damn it. We should add we should sell AiSDR instead of cost cutting. instead of cost cutting. Yeah, but that's for sure. Sometimes, however, there are exceptions. There are some chatbot tools that have higher pricing, but they just win the clients. They have 1-day implementation. So next day you're up and running. They're more expensive, but the administrative cost of considering and implementing is so high that people are willing to pay with dollars than their headaches and the decision and management boards to approve something. So
interesting.
Also be mindful of that.
Yeah, that's for sure. So surprise, surprise, no golden rules. You have to figure it out for yourself. Okay, so we're coming up at time, right? So we have 3 minutes left. So what I want to say is thank you to everyone who tuned in. I hope you found this interesting and useful and insightful. We were trying to be specific about our advice, right? And to try to make it as actionable as possible. If you have any additional questions that haven't been answered, please send them our way. You can follow us on LinkedIn. You can visit the website. And to reiterate again, you have 2 great offers today, which are valid until the end of the month. You can save a lot, right? So on AiSDR end, you can get our 3,000 email package with 50% discount. So that makes it $1,000 per month, which we will honor in perpetuity. So as you scale or stay with us, we will keep this price for you. So use this, and then I will let Bohdan explain the offer for Spendbase.
Yeah, and for the Spendbase, as we charge only based on our performance, even then, for $5,000, you'll just get them as a gift for your new budget for 2025. Will save you money up to $5,000 in our fees, and then we'll continue with 25%. You'll be sure that we can deliver on infrastructure, sales tools, all of your SaaS stack, everything that's boring. We'll take it on us, and all the negotiations that might not be the best and the most pleasurable experience.
Yeah, and AiSDR is trusting Spendbase with some of our expense management, so strongly encourage and recommend this platform. So thank you again for tuning in. Bohdan, thank you so much for your time. Really enjoyed the conversation, and stay tuned. There will be more interesting content coming from AiSDR soon. Have a great day, everyone.
Bye-bye.